The plank is a weird exercise, and now we are required to do them for the Marine Corps, for our physical fitness test. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of things you can do to help improve your plank, and so you can hold it even longer.
What's going on, everybody? Staff Sergeant Eckert here. Like I was saying, today's video is going to be just about doing the plank and how to improve it and improve your stamina and strength, and kind of hit on the areas that the plank really focuses on. So first thing we have to realize is the plank is a non-moving isometric exercise, which means it's basically just stamina intensive. It does take some strength as a combination, but it's like more of an endurance core workout. And we know it's easier to judge when you're watching a bunch of Marines rather than watching them do a bunch of sit-ups. So yeah, an isometric contraction is just when the muscles in your body, like let's say I take my bicep here, right? If I were to go like this, it'd be a dynamic exercise which has movement. If I have my bicep flexed here and I put a resistance on it, I am now in an isometric contraction because the muscle is not lengthening or shortening. So with the plank, we're just holding that position as long as we can. And that's why it's more of an endurance exercise. Because think about my bicep. If I'm putting stress on this, it's basically just holding a resistance as long as I can until I can't hold that anymore and it falls to the ground. So today, the exercises I'm gonna break down for you are gonna be mostly endurance and fatigue resistant exercises. All right, so a plank heavily involves your hip flexors. I'm gonna break down each muscle groups, but let's talk about hip flexors first. Hip flexors are what cause your body to go like this, right? Hip extension would be the opposite direction. So I'm lifting backwards and my hip is kind of pushing out this way, just like a squat or something like that. So what we want to do, especially because we go straight from plank into running, right? We want to strengthen those hip flexors to be fatigue resistance because running involves hip flexion as well. So once you go straight from a plank into that 3-mile run, that's where those hip flexors start to fire up, and we want to make sure they're really strong, right? So one of the easiest way to strengthen your hip flexors just with your own body weight is just laying on the ground and doing leg lifts. So I'll stay like this, hands underneath my butt to kind of support my lower back, and I'll just hold this position. We want to reenact what the plank is doing. So the plank isn't moving, right? I'm not doing this. I am just holding my feet here in an isometric contraction because that's what the plank is asking me to do. It's causing me to stay in this position. So this is a very good hip flexor exercise to hold in this position, especially when you can add weight to your feet, you can wear boots, you can do whatever you want, and just hold this position because this is going to help strengthen your hip flexors as well as make them fatigue resistant. All right, it's not just about strength, it's about resisting fatigue and training that endurance. So just hold here. Basically, you can hold here until failure. You get that nice shake going on as you get really fatigued, just like you would in a plank, because your body is not used to working for so long. So the central nervous system is going to know, okay, I need to activate my hip flexors for a very long time. I think the plank is a 345 to max out the physical fitness test, which is what you should be striving to do, is hold that plank for 3 minutes and 45 seconds minimum. I wouldn't go too far over that, I mean, unless you're feeling saucy about the run. But yeah, fatigue resistant hip flexor exercise, leg lifts, it's a great one. All right, so we're gonna stick to the trend of isometric contractions. And now we're gonna talk about our upper body a little bit, our rectus abdominis, a little bit of obliques, but that compression style strength that the plank takes in order to hold your body in that position, right? And you are in a contracted state in your core when you're in a plank. So let's try to mimic that with dumbbells. All right, so I have a 30-pound dumbbell here. I'm gonna try to wrap my feet and lock them into position so I won't go flying backwards. But all I'm gonna do with this dumbbell is bring it up over my head and down and down and down, and extend my arms as straight as I can go, but a little bit bent, and then hold this position. Remember, it's about fatigue resistance. So putting your body in this position here, you should be feeling it in your core, in your arms, in a nice compression. And you want that dumbbell to stay in the exact same spot. And you should feel like a little shake going on. You should start getting those jitters and stuff like you do when you're doing a plank and you're just holding here. Keep your neck nice and straight. That way you're not straining, trying to look up. Nice and straight, and focus on your core and kind of where your triceps are as well. Hold, little more difficult. You could bring it out a little further, but make sure there's a bend in your arm, because when we're doing a plank, there's gonna be a bend in our arm, and we wanna simulate that as much as possible. So again, hold it here as long as you can. You can go until failure or just before failure. And that is gonna be a great exercise to help you focus on fatigue resistant core that will apply to your plank. Okay, so now I'm facing the opposite side of the bench. I have a 10-pound dumbbell, and we're gonna try to focus on using a little bit of our hip flexors, because in order to engage the quads, we probably have to use a little bit of hip flexors. But we're trying to focus on our quads here, because in an extended position, you are flexing your quads into your hip flexors, into your core. And those, plus a little bit of lower back, which is what we'll do at the end, are what's gonna encompass that core training in a plank. So remember, all this is isometric, okay? It's developing fatigue resistant strength. So I put the dumbbell in between my feet. I'm gonna hold onto the bench here, and I'm gonna lay back. So I'm like this, and then I'm gonna pick this dumbbell up with my feet. And I can extend my legs just a little bit and hold here. Good Lord, that is tough. And you'll notice in all of these positions, you'll get the shakes, unless you're extremely trained in this stuff. And I mean, I can max the plank out. I can do it for, I think, like 5 minutes, but I still get the shakes every time. And so all we're doing here is trying to teach the body to stay in these positions and relax. Because the more you can relax, the more you can hold in these positions, and your body doesn't feel like it's struggling. And so that exercise, you will feel a little bit in your lower back, but we're really trying to focus here. You don't want to extend your body completely, because, I mean, you can, because in a plank you are extended completely, but it'll make it extremely focused on the hip flexors. If you have a slight bend in your legs, it'll keep it kind of focused on your quads. But yeah, I would highly recommend you do all these exercises and keep everything as close to max or 90% effort as possible. That way you're truly getting as much juice out of the orange as you can. It's just an expression I like to use that just talks about the entire potential you have out of the muscle. The further you push with injury mitigation, you don't want to push to the point where you're like blowing a hip flexor or something like that, but you want to push yourself further than normal and hold in those positions. And you'll notice you're going to be shaky throughout them. But let's do one lower back exercise just to kind of bring everything around now that we've hit the quads, the hip flexors, and the abs. Okay, so for the last exercise, this one's gonna be a little weird, but we're gonna use the bench again, try to keep it as minimal as possible. You can do this on the ground, but I like using the bench because it allows your feet to hang off the edge. So line your hips up with the edge of this bench here and kind of lay down flat on it. Hold on to wherever you can on the bench, right? Probably lower is better. And all you're gonna do is lift your feet up off the ground and flex your butt and your lower back and a little bit of your hamstrings. And just hold here. Don't completely arch up like this. Try to keep nice and straight, that we are not hyperextending, but you are engaging the lower back. And remember, like everything else, this is an isometric contraction. So we're really starting to feel the burn. And yeah, this is gonna get all the shakes out. This is gonna feel really good throughout your entire process. And that's the same principle as everything else when it comes to close to max effort. Don't go completely until failure, but right before should be good. And watch out for injury. But yeah, those are 4 exercises in an isometric fashion that will really help you develop the strength needed for plank, that anti-fatigue muscle, and just teach your brain how to relax in those positions, because that's what it's all about. If you can do things calmly, you're going to be less stressed while doing it as a total, which means physically and mentally, and you're going to be able to breathe more, get more oxygen where it needs to go, and you're going to be able to hold it a lot longer. So that's pretty much all I got for plank today. Hope you all like this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.